back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Ali. Today we're going to be doing a really fun thing, and I think I'm also going to make this a series on my account. We are going to be fan casting Emily Henry books. I am so excited to do this. We're gonna do Beach Read, Happy Place, which is my all-time favorite. I love this book so much, and then Funny Story. So these are the ones I've read by Emily Henry. I started with Happy Place, then I read Beach Read, and then I just did Funny Story, which I did a vlog reading it, so if you want to go watch that, go give it a watch. But I am so excited. My friend and I, we actually have a podcast. We talk about entertainment news, and when Happy Place was announced, they were getting a TV show. We were so excited, and we actually did a fan cast. So of course I will be linking that, and I will also be adding the people we suggested from that segment we did, and then some other ones I was thinking of.
I am a TV and film nerd.
I majored in radio, television, and film, and I love reading. I love a good rom-com, and so these finally getting movies and television shows is literally everything to me. When I read books, I basically do cast them in my head because I need someone to picture in my head. Some people don't picture anything in their head, which is crazy to me. Like, how do you not? Like, I'm basically watching a movie when I'm reading. Don't worry, I've done my research and we're gonna get to it right now. I think we're gonna start off with Beach Read just because of the three. It's not like I disliked it, it just wasn't my favorite of the three. So here's Beach Read. If you haven't read it, it follows these two writers, January and Gus. They go to this beach town, and January's like a romance rom-com writer and Gus is like the great American novel, okay? So they're like, they couldn't be more different, and they actually knew each other from the past, and they make a bet that they'll write each other's own genre and see who can do it better. So that leads to all kinds of hijinks of her taking him on romantic dates to make him believe in like a rom-com life, and him taking her to all these like crazy depressing outings to learn about the cruelty of life. So like, it's very Grumpy Sunshine vibes to me. We're gonna start off with this, and I took into great account TikTok opinions, Pinterest opinions, my friends' opinions, and my own. And today I'm gonna give you my Beach Read movie cast. They've been hinting hard at who might be in it, and of course I'm gonna mention those people, okay? So everyone knows there's the rumor after this photo dropped. It's of Paul Mescal and Ayo Edebiri from The Bear, and they're all like lovey-dovey next to each other, you know? So everyone's like, oh my god. There was proof. I don't remember what the proof was, but there was a clue that it seemed like it was for Beach Read. For some reason, the internet started stirring that those two might be January and Gus, which I love. I think they'd be really good together, and I want to see Ayo in a rom-com. I feel like that'd be so fun. I love her in The Bear, and she's just so funny, and I feel like January, I wrote like little descriptions. January's very like goofy, lighthearted, but she is going through this dramatic part in her life, which I won't spoil for you. You need someone who can kind of bring the drama, but some levity too. So I really think Ayo is my top choice actually for January, and I do like Paul Mescal as Gus, but like I want him as someone else in this casting, so I'm not gonna pick him as my top pick for Gus. If we get it though, I'll be happy, okay? Okay, let's go with January first. As I've already said, I want Ayo for sure. Love Ayo, but if for some reason we can't get her, I'm gonna pick a rom-com queen. I would say she helped bring rom-coms back with Mr. Glenn Powell. I want Zoe Deutsch. I'm so serious. Set It Up might be like one of my favorite rom-coms ever. It was like a genuinely good one when they were making just such bad ones for years on streaming services and stuff. Like, it really seemed like they understood the assignment. She's just such like a bright, happy energy in all the roles she plays, and I just feel like she has such this like sunshine vibe to her, to where playing January would be so good. And I think she could bring the drama as well, and she would just be a good like sunshine contrast to Gus, you know? And she's like that in Set It Up, so like I think she'd be a really good pick. And so she and Ayo are definitely like my top two picks, but I do have two more because I'm gonna give you guys options, okay? Like, don't worry, Hollywood, I'm doing all the work for you. So the next two that I have are Megan Faye, I don't know how how to say her last name. I'm so sorry. Her main role that most people know her from is probably The White Lotus. She plays the kind of rich wife to Theo James. And she also just plays this very bubbly, fun character, but like has that dramatic edge to her. And I know her from The Bold Type on Freeform, formerly known as ABC Family. That was my favorite show in high school, and I'm so mad it ended because I could have watched that for 100 years. In that show, she plays Sutton, who's like this very fashionable, kind of leading a rom-com life, working at a fashion magazine, very bubbly, very kind, but you know, she does deal with these like dramatic elements throughout the show. It's like a dramedy, and I don't know, I just feel like she needs to get more roles. Like, people are sleeping on her, and I was so happy when she got into The White Lotus, and I think she'd be a fun pick for this one. And I don't know, I just really want her in a rom-com, so like that's why I'm putting her here. And I think out of all the characters I'm casting today, she fits January the best. And then the next one, her name is Geraldine Viswanathan. I love her. She's in one of my favorite rom-coms of like all time, and it was another one that got slept on, and I think it came out like right before COVID got really bad and we had to start quarantining, and it was called The Broken Hearts Gallery. It is produced by Selena Gomez, and it's set in New York City, and it's about this girl who's like a hoarder and like keeps everything from all her past relationships, but there's like a deep meaning to it. And it also has Dacre Montgomery from Stranger Things, but she just plays, again, this super sunshine, bubbly, like hopeless romantic girl who like believes in a fairy tale and believes that there's good in the world, you know? Genuinely, if you haven't watched that movie, please go watch it. It's on streaming or you can buy it. I bought it because I loved it so much. I think she'd be a really good lead as January. So yeah, I'm gonna add her to this list as well. Please go watch The Broken Hearts Gallery because I might be the only person who's seen it and I need other people to watch it, please. Those are my picks for January. Yeah, like I was saying, January is just this very happy-go-lucky girl who seems to have such a like glass half full mindset, but she is going through this really traumatic thing that's happened to her and she's grappling with a lot. So I think all these girls could bring that levity to the role, but also bring the drama. I think they'd all have good chemistry with my picks for Gus. I'm so excited to see who we get. I'm really hoping it is AO because I think if that is true, however that rumor sparked, I don't remember how it sparked when that picture dropped, but for some reason everyone thinks that's the cast. I'd be so happy. I'd be so happy. So we shall see. Okay, let's move on to Gus. For playing Gus, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, okay? Gus was kind of exhausting to me. I'm sorry, okay? He was, like, I liked him, but like, he was just a lot, okay? Like, so we're gonna need someone who can bring the drama but also like not be exhausting to me. So that's what I was thinking of when I picked these three guys I've landed on for playing Mr. Augustus Everett. Like I said, he's more of this glass half empty guy, and he's like the true American novelist kind of guy, like, you know, like he's writing that kind of stuff. And I sound like I hate him. I don't. It's just like, I don't know. He was just like, I think that's what made it a little hard for me to finish this book. It's just, he was so sad. And I had a hard time with it. Obviously, we have Paul Mescal because I think he is playing Gus, if that rumor's correct. I think he'd be good. Like, we've seen Normal People, we've seen everything he's in. He plays a good dramatic character and kind of this sad boy. So I think he'd be great. And that's all I'm gonna say because it's pretty much who I think is cast if the AO pick in him is true. The other two picks that I have are Jonah Hauer-King. He played Prince Eric in the Little Mermaid remake, and I was in love with him for like the whole duration of the summer of 2023 because of that. I feel like he could make me like Gus a lot more, okay? I feel like I would suddenly be like, oh Gus, it's okay, don't be sad, you know, like I feel like I'd be more into him. I think he's on the up, he's like getting more roles and like people loved him as Prince Eric, so I want to see him in another like romantic rom-com type role. So Jonah Hauer-King is my pick for Gus, and my final pick for Gus, I had to throw him in because I feel like he fits this tortured writer vibe so well. Ben Barnes, you know, Mr. Fan-casted Sirius Black himself. I just think he'd be fun in a rom-com. And he's just got that scruffy look that they describe Gus as having. And I don't know, I feel like he could play a charming yet tortured artist. And I just feel like any of these people with my picks for January would go really well together. So these are who I think Hollywood should pick. I'm not gonna cast every single character in all these books just because we'd be here for forever, but I'll go with some of the very big main characters. So for Pete, who is Gus's aunt in the book, and she owns the bookshop, I loved Pete. She was just so sweet to me. And when I was reading it in my head, the person I was seeing was Meg Ryan. Like Meg Ryan with a little pixie cut like she has in You Got Mail. So like if we can get Meg Ryan, sign me up, okay? Sign me up. I think she'd be so good, kind of maternal figure to Gus and January. I'd love it. I'd eat it up, okay? If I can't get Meg Ryan, I also think Amy Sedaris. She is the girl from Elf, the receptionist, and she's also a comedian. I knew her from Elf, but she's a very famous comedian. I think she'd be funny, and like she kind of gives the same vibe as Meg Ryan, so like I think they'd work together. So those are my picks for Pete. That is Beach Read. I'm so excited to see what they do. I hope it is getting a movie because I feel like this one should be a movie. It shouldn't be a TV show. I feel like it could be like a really fun, kind of like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days vibe, because they are doing these like fake dates and it's a bet, you know. I feel like it could be a really fun rom-com. Very excited for that one. So we're gonna move on to Happy Place. I love this book. This is like my top 3. It's one of my favorites. Oh my god, I like can gush over this book for forever. Just the vibes of it are so immaculate. They're in, I believe, Maine, and they go to this lobster place all the time. It's a small, cute little coastal town. They're best friends that have known each other like for years at this point, and it's just amazing vibes. It's like about this couple that is at the forefront of the story, but within that it also follows the whole friend group, and oh my god, I just love it so much, okay? Like I could talk about this for 40 minutes if you let me. I already actually did do a fan cast of this with my friend Sydney. Like I said, she and I have an entertainment news podcast where we just like to yap about stuff like this, so if you want to give it a follow, I'll put it right here. But she and I already did this one, so I'm gonna include our picks and who we ended up choosing, but also just some ones that were thrown out that we didn't pick. And then if you want to see who we picked like officially and together as a team, you should go check out that podcast episode. But okay, let's get to Happy Place. So Happy Place is getting picked up for a TV show by, I didn't know it, but Jennifer Lopez has a production company. So they got the rights to Happy Place, and Netflix is going to make it into a series. And that is exactly what I needed to hear, that it's getting a series, because this doesn't deserve a movie. With how much like story there is, with so many different characters and going back and forth like past and present like this, we need a show. And it takes place over the course of a week in real time, and then like over the span of like 10 years when they go into the past, so like when they recount past stories. So like I think it needs a show so they can really flesh out all those moments. I just feel like it'd be way too rushed if it was a movie. So glad they did that. I'm so glad Netflix picked it up as a show. And I'm really glad also, just side note, that Emily Henry's involved in all the adaptations, because like we've seen it. We see what happens when authors aren't involved in the adaptions of their stories for the screen. Most of the time it doesn't work out well. So it is really good that she's involved. I'm just waiting for the day that Reese Witherspoon's company gets one of these, because she kills it with book adaptations, and Amazon Prime needs to get their hands on one of these. I swear, they would absolutely knock it out of the park. Okay, I think we should start with the mid-tier characters and build our way up. Happy Place follows this character named Harriet, who's the narrator the whole time. And you follow her through college and up until she's like out of college for quite a long time at this point. And she has her best friends, Sabrina and Cleo, and they were like this little trio until the guys came around, who's Parth, and he ends up dating Sabrina. Cleo ends up dating this girl named Kimmy, and then they meet this guy named Win through all of that. And so they all form like this little group, and Win and Harriet fall in love, and they stay together for quite a long time. But in the beginning of this book, we find out that they have broken up. And we don't really know why they've broken up. You're gonna have to find out throughout the book. But they have broken up, and they didn't tell the rest of the group. And the rest of the group at this point is leading their own lives, like they're coupled off, they're living their lives, and so they only can get together when they go to Sabrina's house in Maine. And that's like the only time they all see each other. So this year they all go, and they still think that Win and Harriet are together, and you'll find out that Sabrina and Parth are actually gonna use this weekend to get married. So they don't want to ruin the week for them. So Harriet and Win just decide to stay together for the sake of their friend's happiness and not to ruin the weekend. So of course chaos ensues. I loved this one. It was my favorite of the Emily Henry books. So this one I took a lot of time and I found a lot of characters, so let's get to it. I'll start with the friends and then build up to Harriet and Win. Okay, so for Kimmy, to describe Kimmy, she's very adventurous, bubbly, like an empathetic nature. She is partners with Cleo and they run like a vegetable farm, if I'm not mistaken. Like they're just like these really cool people. The first one on my list is Karen Gillan. You might know her from Guardians of the Galaxy, Jumanji. I just think she could really play this role well, and she's a lovely little redhead, so I think it'd work well. But other than her, I also had Madeline Petch, who is from Riverdale famously. She was Cheryl Blossom. She just had like a scary movie with Lionsgate. And so I feel like she'd be a really fun pick, and I feel like she'd be into this. This would fit her vibe. She said in an interview recently, like she just loves doing stuff that she knows like will make people happy and that fans love and that she like loves. So I feel like she'd be very interested in doing a fun little rom-com series. And then my other pick is a girl who's in very well with Netflix, and I think she would play this role so well, is Miss Maya Hawke. I love her. She's probably best known as Robin from Stranger Things, and she also had the movie Do Revenge, and she was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for like 5 seconds. Like she was just in Inside Out 2 as Anxiety. So she's just goofy, fun, very lighthearted vibe to her, and I think she'd be a really good addition to the group as Karen, or as Kimmy. For some reason I keep thinking her name is Karen, and I need to stop doing that. But as Kimmy. And yeah, those are my picks. I think my favorite is probably Madeline Petch, but my second favorite is probably Maya Hawke. So the next character is Cleo. Cleo is from the original trio. Ooh, that rhymed. But so she was in the original friend group of just Sabrina, Harriet, and herself. She is like a ride or die for these people. She and Harriet are very close, you'll find out, and like she just has this very calm, serene vibe to her. So my first pick is Taylor Russell. She was in, I think she was in Bones and All, that Timothée Chalamet movie, and then she recently dated Harry Styles, and I think she's like on the come up right now. Like she's really like in her era, she's getting a lot of roles and stuff, so I feel like this would be a fun one for her. And then the other two I picked, so I didn't know that she was an actress until I saw her in the Beauty and the Beast like live show that they did on Disney Plus like a year ago, and she played Belle, and I am talking about her. She might have the most calming, serene vibe I've ever seen. So when I thought calm and serene, I thought of her. So, and she was a great actress, and I think that'd be a fun addition. And like if we have her, we might as well like ask her to write a song for the show. Like I'm just saying. So anyway, she's my second pick, and then my number one pick is an actress that I always think just brings so much like love and light to all her films, and that's gonna be Alexandra Shipp. She was just in Anyone But You. She played one of the brides who was getting married that weekend. So I think she would have like this very calm, serene vibe around her friends, but you also learn that Cleo's kind of like uptight about something, and you're wondering what it is in the present, because up until this weekend, or this week at the beach, she had always been so like laid back. In Anyone But You, Alexandra Shipp kind of had that same mentality. Like she was very stressed about what was going on, but also was trying to be really calm. So I think she could do this role really well. Those are my picks for Kimmy and Cleo, and I think all these actresses would like balance each other out well, because they would be paired, you know, in this group. So I think they would all work really well. Okay, moving on to Parth. He is engaged to Sabrina in the story, and he's just like a guy best friend, you know? He's a good guy to have around. He's very loyal. He keeps his cool in every situation, and Sabrina's kind of uptight, so I feel like he kind of helps calm her down. So I have 3 picks. The first one is Mr. Beck from Victorious, Avan Gogia. I was in love with Beck when I was a kid. I would love to see him in this role. I think he'd fit the vibe really well, and I feel like he just, like on Victorious, he always played a very good friend, and I think that's what Parth is here for in this story. So I think he'd be very good in that. And then another one that was getting fan casted a lot, if you look up like fan casts for Happy Place, and his name is Manish Dayal. I know he's on The Resident. That's a show like my mom is obsessed with. And so yeah, I think he'd be a really fun pick as well. But my favorite pick is, okay, How I Met Your Father was the reboot of How I Met Your Mother. I was finally starting to get into it, and then they canceled it. So like I'm really mad about that. On that show, there was a character who was played by Suraj Sharma. I thought he was so funny, and I'm pretty sure he was the father too, if you ask me. Like, I'm almost 100% certain, and it's gonna plague my mind that I'll never know because Hulu canceled the show, but whatever. So anyway, he's my number one pick for Parth. On the show, like, if you haven't watched it, go give it a watch. He just played like this perfect best friend to everyone. He was very loyal, and I just think he'd be great for this. So he's my number one pick for Parth. And now we need Parth's girlfriend and one of the best friends of the group, Miss Sabrina. Describe Sabrina, she's very like bubbly, funny, kind of this naive life of the party. She's just trying to keep the group together as best as she can throughout the story. So we need someone who's a little type A, but also fun. So again, I'm gonna throw Miss Zoe Deutsch out there. If we don't get her in Beach Read, I think that's who I saw when I was reading the book as Sabrina, was Zoe Deutsch, and I think she just fits the vibe so well, this like East Coast, fun, bubbly vibe again. But the other ones that I wanted to throw out there, Alicia Bowe, she's on the Buccaneers and she plays Conchita, and Conchita's character on the Buccaneers she's kind of this life of the party girl, and she's trying so hard to like hold on to like this girlish friend group that's like very girlhood, you know, and I feel like that fits what Sabrina's trying to do throughout the whole story. She's trying to keep everyone together and happy, but you know, Sabrina's got a bit of an attitude to her as well, and she's very like spunky and like likes to have fun, and I feel like Alicia Bowe plays that character so well as Conchita, who's very similar. So she is maybe one of my number one picks as Sabrina, and yeah, those are my picks for Sabrina. Now we are to the main characters of this story and our two love interests. We're gonna start with Win. Win is this like brooding puppy dog, charming yet kind of tortured blonde guy. I'm gonna be honest with you, I only have two picks. One of them is who I saw the whole time I was reading this book, and the other one is one that like popped in my head after a very particular Netflix show came out, so hint hint. But first one I'm gonna pick is who I literally saw in my head, and I really need him as Win. I think he'd be so good. It's Mr. Drew Starkey, Mr. Rafe Cameron himself. He did have his time in a rom-com recently. It was The Other Zoe, and like I just think that should not be his rom-com. He needs something more. And so he's played a murderer. I want him to play a nice guy where I don't feel guilty for like having a crush on him, like with Rafe Cameron, you know? So I think Drew Starkey would be such a fun pick. He's who I saw when I was reading it, and I feel like he just fits this like Midwestern vibe that Win has that's so like central to his character. And yeah, he's my number one pick. But if we don't get him, I also think Mr. Leo Woodall from One Day would be such a good pick as well, and I think he'd be perfect as Win as well. So yeah, those are the two guys I will accept, no one else. I'm kidding, they'll probably pick someone amazing, but I hope these two are in the conversations, and I hope we get Mr. Drew Starkey. So Netflix, you heard me. Ending this Happy Place fan casting with Miss Harriet. Harriet is a sarcastic, witty, brunette girl who's kind of feeling lost at this moment, and she's the narrator of our story. So Miss Camilla Marone from Daisy Jones and the Six, she played Camilla. I love this actress. I think she's so talented, and I want to see her in more roles as well. And I think she could play this very like kind-hearted girl who's lost very well, and this hopeless romantic that she was, who's now kind of more like scorned. I think she could play that really well. I mean, we saw her as Camilla in Daisy Jones and the Six, so I'd love to see her in a leading role like this, and I just feel like she fits this like vibe so well. Like, I don't know, I just like can picture her like in Maine, like just living her best life, and I feel like Camilla Marone would be an awesome pick, and her and Drew Starkey together, that'd be a beautiful couple. Just think about it for a sec. My final pick for Harriet is Margaret Qualley. I mean, if you look up fan cast, you're gonna see Margaret Qualley for this one. I think she's an excellent pick, and I think she fits this East Coast Maine vibe so well. And you've seen her in so many dramatic roles, but she also can be very funny in interviews, and like I just think she embodies Harriet so well. This is my cast for Happy Place. I am so excited for this one, like you have no idea. I can't wait for the first trailer. I feel like it's gonna be life-changing. I know I'm gonna have to wait a very long time for that, so I'll be losing my mind until then, but let's move on to the final book of today, Funny Story. So for Funny Story, there's a lot of characters. I'm just gonna focus on Petra, Peter, Ashley, Julia, and then Miles and Daphne. Just because I feel like that's the core characters that are in the majority of the story. Let's start with everyone's favorite couple to hate, Miss Petra and Mr. Peter. So for Petra, I was imagining Suki Waterhouse the whole time. She played this role very well actually, also in The Broken Hearts Gallery, which go watch that movie, that you've been warned a second time. But she plays a character very similar to that, so I think that's why she popped into my head. But I think she'd be a great pick for this. Also her sister, Imogen Waterhouse, who's also in the Buccaneers, I think she'd be a very fun pick. And you really don't see much of Petra in the book. Like, she's only spoken about for the most part. So I feel like Petra is a very interesting character to cast. She's described as very beautiful, almost like perfect, and I think these girls fit that very well. And then for Peter, I'm so sorry to do this to you, Glenn, but Glen Powell. I love Glen Powell. I am a Glen Powell OG fan. I've loved him since Scream Queens, but I think he played this terrible character so well. I feel like he could really make us hate him. And with that, I'm gonna say he is my pick for Peter. The next character I'm going to cast is Ashley. Ashley is this single mother friend to Daphne that you see their friendship evolve as the story goes on, and they both work at the library together. Ashley kind of gives like Samantha Jones energy to me. She's very much like a ride or die friend, but she's also a tough nut to crack. These are the two characters that two actresses that came to mind, and they're both so talented, and I think they'd be just such a good like guiding light for Daphne, which they kind of become. I'm gonna pick Simone Ashley from Bridgerton. She plays Miss Kate Sharma. I just think she has such a nurturing energy, but I also think she could kind of play someone who's really intimidating if you gave her the chance. Like, I don't know, I feel like she'd fit that vibe, but then like once you get to know her, she's like such a sweetie, and I feel like that'd be a great role for her, and I'd love to see her in some kind of rom-com. I want to see her as a main in a rom-com too, so like if you want her as Daphne, I'm so down for that. But I just think she'd also be a great Ashley. My other pick for Ashley is Natalie Morales. Natalie Morales, they're in so many things. Like, they were in Parks and Rec. They played Tom's girlfriend at one point, and then Dead to Me. And I actually got to interview Natalie Morales for a film they had at South by Southwest this past year. So nice. Natalie like has that dry sense of humor that Ashley kind of brings to the table too. So I think that Natalie's my number one pick for Ashley. Next we have Julia. Julia is the little sister to Miles's character, and Julia is very outgoing, an overall like nurturing, kind person. They're described as being like 20s, early 20s, maybe 23 or so. And I was trying to think of younger actresses that I think would like play off this very fun little sister vibe, and the two that I thought of were Caitlin Dever. She was in the new movie Rosalind that was like about the Romeo and Juliet story, but from Rosalind's point of view. And then Booksmart, the Olivia Wilde movie, I think she'd be funny, and I think she could just play a really fun, like, you know, sarcastic little sister role. But my number one pick is Bailey Madison. You know this girl, you've seen her everywhere. I remember first seeing her in The Wizards of Waverly Place. She played Girl Max. In the Adam Sandler, Jennifer Aniston rom-com, she played their kid. She's just a lovely, lovely human being. I really enjoy like watching her in interviews. Anyway, she's like recently in the Pretty Little Liars reboot, which is actually so good. Like, please go watch it. It's so fun. Like, the newest season was so terrifying, but I was here for it. I'd love to see her in a role like this. I think she'd be a really, really fun pick. And yeah, Bailey Madison's definitely my top pick. Okay, we've made it to Miles and Daphne. I'll start with Miles. Miles, I think of all the Emily Henry guys that I've read, is my favorite. I love Miles, but I do need to read Book Lovers and People We Meet on Vacation. I was picking some of my favorite actors when I was discussing who should play Miles with myself. So, of course, everyone's been saying it online. He's giving Dylan O'Brien energy, and I agree. So if we want Dylan O'Brien to play Miles, I am so here for that. Is described as being like this very witty, sarcastic, charming dude, very charismatic, and like that sounds like Dylan O'Brien. Like, it's actually a crime to humanity we haven't gotten him in a rom-com, so I'm so here for that. And then also I said Paul Mescal was gonna make it on another part of this list, and this is where it is. I was imagining him being Miles way more than Gus, just because they describe Miles having like the tattoos, Paul has tattoos. That's not my only reason, but like then that sparked the idea in my head though. And I don't know, I feel like he'd fit this very nice like bartender, charming, charismatic vibe. So I'd love to see Paul as Mr. Miles, okay? Like, let's make it happen. And then, you know him, you love him, the man, the myth, the legend, the white boy of every single month, Logan Lerman, okay? He is my favorite for this role. I think he would absolutely thrive as Miles, and it's also a crime to humanity. I haven't seen him in a rom-com in a while, so like, what's going on? So anyway, I think he'd be an awesome pick, and I think he just fits the vibe so well. So that's the holy trinity of who could play Miles. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. So when it came to picking Daphne, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of struggling. I don't know why I was struggling so much, but I just was having a very hard time coming up with it. So I have a bit of a broad list, but I will present my findings. Emma Mackey, she was in Barbie, and she was also very famous from Sex Education. She's such an awesome actress, and I wish like we had her in more roles. Like, she cracked me up in Barbie. So I think she'd be a really fun pick for Daphne, and I'll insert some pictures throughout this. Like, these pictures are just giving like librarian cool girl vibes, and I feel like that's what Daphne gives, so that's kind of my reasoning. And then these characters are also described as being in their 30s. Like, so I was trying to think of like actresses that were in their 30s, you know, like, and Rachel Brosnahan came to mind. She is Marvelous Ms. Maisel. She's now gonna be Lois Lane in the new Superman franchise, and I love her. I think she'd be really fun in this role, especially like she's just so eccentric, and I feel like she could play like Daphne, like reading to the kids like at the library so well, and she's so witty, and literally Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is one of my favorite shows, and I'd love to see Rachel in a rom-com. This is kind of who I started to see. I feel like my mind, when I was reading this, I was switching between this girl and Emma Mackey a lot. Miss Claudia Jessie from Bridgerton. She plays Eloise Bridgerton. I think she fits this vibe so well. Like, you know, Eloise loves to read. She's very outspoken, and as we watch Daphne's character like progress, you see her become very outspoken in her own person, and like she has such a like vibrant personality, you learn as this book goes on. And I think that Claudia Jessie just would really thrive in a rom-com. She's so funny, and I feel like she would be a great pick, and she would be able to, you know, bring so much like fun to the character. And I mean, her with Logan, Paul, or Dylan as Miles, I feel like it'd be magic. I think that wraps up my funny story cast. There were so many characters, so I didn't do everyone. I apologize, but honestly, I just left out like the dad and Starfire, and that was my fan cast for Funny Story, Happy Place, and Beach Read. I hope you enjoyed watching it. I love fan casting when I'm reading. It just brings me so much joy to try and like build the cast in my head for some reason. So I thought this would be a fun series to do on this channel. Let me know if you'd want me to do this with more book series. Once I read Book Lovers and People We Meet on Vacation, there will be a part 2 to Emily Henry's, and I was thinking Taylor Jenkins Reid books. Let me know who you think could play some of these characters in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and want to give me a subscribe, I'd love that. But thank you so much for visiting my channel. It truly means the world, because you could have picked anything in the world to watch, and you chose to hang out with me for a little while, so that's pretty cool of you. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this, and have a nice day. Bye.